He was drafted in both Major League Baseball and the NFL. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he had the absolute best seat in the house when it comes to watching the Dome Patrol. He is Toi Cook.
What's up, guys? This is Mike Carney.
This is Toi Cook.
I'm Randy Mueller.
This is Quinn Early.
I'm Delvin Bro.
I'm Alex Molden.
I'm Jake Cup, and this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint.
The Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
Life of a Saint.
And this is Life of a Saint. Whodat?
Toi, always a pleasure to speak with you. Usually I like to start at the beginning with the people I interview. I'm going to start back at the very, very, very beginning, like birth certificate beginning. The name Toi, where does that come from?
That came from my biological father, who I've never met, who was from, I'm from Chicago, but his name was Toi, T-O-Y.
Okay.
And my mom decided to make it T-O-I. So I was going to be John Fitzgerald, because she's a big John Fitzgerald Kennedy, as I am, because I was born in 1964. But I ended up becoming Toi Fitzgerald.
At what age did you realize that you were just naturally more gifted than your peers?
Probably from the time I was in kindergarten.
Wow.
Well, you go on the playground. Mm-hmm. There was dodgeball, there was kickball, there was races, and I was usually winning those type of games as a kid.
Gotcha.
Anything that was a contest, I was from the time, and if it was out in the playground, I was, I called it like Lord of the Flies, right? That's where everyone kind of congregates, and everyone sets up their little caste system. And I was pretty good.
When you were growing up, was it always baseball and football, or were there other sports that you were involved with as well?
In high school, it was because I went to a very small private high school, Montclair Prep, in the Valley, and we played. Everyone, I had a graduating class of like 50 people, and so it was 8-man football. So we played football, then right after that, straight to basketball, and right after that, straight to baseball.
So I saw that you grew up in Chicago. How did you end up on the West Coast?
Because my dad was a cameraman, Greg Cook, and he's from Rockford, Illinois. And when I was 7, we moved with my little brother who had just been born to Houston, because he got a job as a cameraman director at Channel 13 ABC News, and because of that, I always say, as a kid, even in Houston, I was on the set of a major TV, ABC News, and then he used to do the Astro games, and he would do go to Oiler training camp. So I would go to the Astrodome as a kid and see like J.R. Richards and Cesar Cedeno and Roger Metzger and Milt May, and I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. And then we come out to L.A. When I was 12, we move out here, and he's working for KTLA and doing like Soul Train and What's Happening and Carter Country, and Sha Na Na, and he's doing Dodger games. So I'm going to the field from about the time I was 7 all the way through high school. I always was going to like baseball games, and I got to go with him, which meant I got to either be down on the field before the game, around. I got to see players and what that looked like, and that made a big impression on me. And then being on the sets where you see famous movie stars and TV stars in the high school that I went to school with Robert Conrad's kids, Tom Bosley from Happy Days' daughter, Amy went there, Peter Uberall's daughter, Barry White's daughters, John Ashley was the producer of the A-Team. And these were just normal people that would come, parents, and I would talk to them. So I said I grew up with celebrities and athletes. It's a little bit. I'm not Steph Curry, but there's it's same thing with Ken Griffey Jr. or Barry Bonds. Of course, I'm naming the greatest players of all, but there's something to growing up in that environment that it doesn't seem that far-fetched.
So now, being a West Coast guy, there is a plethora of different colleges that you can go to and play football at a high level. What made you choose Stanford?
Because that was my best option. SC wanted me to play. Well, my host was Jack Del Rio, so he was a baseball player too, and they had found out about me as a receiver, but they'd already given out their receiver scholarships. So they said, come play baseball, and for half a year, we'll give you a half scholarship, and then your sophomore year, we'll give you a full football scholarship. And Stanford was saying, we'll just give you a full football scholarship, and you get to play baseball, right? And I'd always joke and say it was a financial decision, but it really was. I was getting a full ride versus that, even though I wanted to go to SC, but it was a half ride. And then I kept saying, Stanford had just been in the World Series the year before, and I was just like, you know what? If I go to Stanford, when I'm 40 years old, if I get in an argument with someone, I'll be able to bust out, I went to Stanford, I'm right. and that was really that was the kind of motivating. I mean, because I just thought at 40, which was so old back then, I'm going to be able to say I went to Stanford, and that's why I chose them.
So throughout that journey of being that little kid that wanted to play football all the way until you finished college, I'm sure everything wasn't easy. What was the toughest thing you had to overcome during that journey to make it into the NFL?
Well, it wasn't far-fetched for me because even up at Stanford, every summer, John Elway and Jim Plunkett and Brent Jones and Chris Dressel and Ken Marjoram and Mike Wilson, who was the number 3 receiver at the time, would come and work out. So as a college kid, I'm covering pros, and I'm talking about like Ken Marjoram had been in the league at that time about 6 years, right? 7 years. Right, and I'm covering him, and Chris Dressel had been in the league 6 years. He was a tight end. I'm covering him, right? And then Ronnie Lott and Eric Wright and Dana McLemore came to work out, and they were watching me, and they're like, dude, you can play. You can play in the league, no question, right? And then once I heard that you can play, that's why I always say the power of words. So typically when you say something, anybody says something of their goals and their dreams, people will immediately say, that's impossible, you know what the odds are, you'll never happen. And I always say those are people trying to impose their limitations on you, right? And you cannot listen to that. And so conversely, when you are lucky enough to have someone that says, you got it, and you can do it, and there's no question you can play in the league. And once they told me, and plus I already had kind of empirical evidence because I'm covering these guys, but to hear it from them, I was like, oh, I'm playing in the league. Ronnie Lott said I could play, so once I heard that, I took it as I'm going to the bank with that, and I never looked back. And even when I got to New Orleans, I remember Chris Myers. Or it might have been Chris Myers or oh my God, I can't think of his name, but I think it was Chris Myers. I'm getting off the bus. Everyone has one bag, for training camp, because you might go home in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. You don't need a lot of stuff. I came from LA with my VCR, my TV. I'm getting off the bus. I'm like looking at all these people with one bag, and I'm dragging everything. They're like, damn, Toy, Chris Myers, I guess you're planning on staying. And I was an 8th round pick. Right, and I go, of course. it never dawned on me that I was going to get cut because I knew that I could play. I'd seen pretty much all of our draft people because the 3 other DBs, Milton Mack and I rolled in a van coming back from the combines. I saw all the DBs there, and I was like, nope, I'm going to be able to play. And not even knowing that, we drafted 4 DBs. I mean. And there's already DBs there, and I didn't even know how that worked. I didn't know I was taking someone's job.
Gotcha.
Right? So it was just but I just knew that I was supposed to be there. That's where I was supposed to be. And in fact, I was mad that I was only coming in as an 8th-round pick when I was told I was going in the first 3. Because I played baseball, and Bo Jackson had turned down the number 1 pick the year before. So everyone in the NFL world was freaked out that a guy from Stanford would never play football with the opportunity of baseball money. They just thought I was too smart, but obviously they didn't know. They were fooled.
Reading up on your journey, even throughout college, baseball, football, whatever it might be, through the NFL, you seem to be a winner an awful lot. In fact, it wasn't until your last season in the NFL that you actually had a losing season. Prior to that, everything was not a losing season. So what do you attribute that to? Is that just right place at the right time, or is there something more to it than that?
I just think that I'm a born winner in a team setting. You know, the joke is, you know, you see a guy like, we say, Jeff George, or someone, I think, Cutler was a coach killer. He had he got coaches fired, right?
Right.
I, on the other hand, I get coaches hired. And let's just go through my coaching tree. You know, Sonny Lubick, my senior year, head coach. My first coach at the Saints as a DB coach was Don Capers. My second coach was Jim Mora, Little Jim, JL, right? My third coach was Tom Homo, right, who's the athletic director at BYU. And finally, the fourth coach, the only coach besides my previous A.J. Kristoff and Dick Manini at Stanford, George Katavolis at the Carolina Panthers, is the only coach that's ever coached me that is not like a head coach.
Gotcha.
Right? And I think the reason that I win is because I'm pretty good at, fans might have got mad or thought they knew, but you go talk to any coordinators or you go talk to any receivers, and you could not throw the ball in my direction and think that you were going to win a game. It was just no. So you had to go elsewhere. And I'm not Dion where I could take away the whole field, but I know this. If it's third down and you're trying to get off the field, or if it's first down, and you can't just take the ball and constantly attack me and win. So that's, and then I make other players better, especially within the secondary, because I'm community. That's why we were really good at the Saints, because Brett Maxey, who's a coach, Vince Buck, who coached, Robert Massey. I play with a bunch of smart DBs. Jimmy, oh my God, I can't even think of Jimmy played the longest from Florida. We just had a bunch of smart, and I had a really great coaching staff: Vic Fangio, Dom Capers, Jim Morris, Steve Sidwell, John Pease. I was blessed. So it was just a combination. Then I go to the Niners. Obviously, that's an all-star team. And I get to Carolina Panthers, and it's Dom Capers and Vic Fangio. And we've seen their success. And, we just saw what Vic, as soon as Khalil Mack went to Chicago Bears, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to the Hall of Fame. All Vic does is put people in the Hall of Fame. Kevin Green, just look at it. It just goes without saying. So a lot of it was luck, but also I do think that I just know how to win on football and baseball.
When you arrived in New Orleans, was there anyone that took you under their wing, showed you what it's like to be an NFL player?
Dave Waymer, no question. Rest in peace. I always cry when I say his name. Where I stretched, in the very back when I first got there, I said, I walked back there. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing coming back here, rookie? I go, how many years you get in the league? And he goes, 10. I go, well, I'm getting 10, so I'm going to be right next to you. Right? So I just plopped right down to Dave, so I would stretch next to him every practice and every pregame. And then when we would go into the meetings, I would always sit next to Dave. Right? And I just think that I've always done that. From every school that I went to, I found someone that was older than me. When I got to Stanford, It was Jeff Arriaga, my roommate in college at the Theta Delta. Because I have some business partners that are like 74 years old, and I go, I don't know why everyone's going after all these young guys, like the Facebooks, and like everyone's trying to go after these little 28-year-olds, like these geniuses. And I'm like, I think really all of the knowledge is in the 75-year-olds.
Right.
And that's what I see. And so, to me, there's no question that my whole college career was shaped by Dave Weimer. I can't even say his name.
Gotcha. No.
Dave Weimer.
I mean, that just speaks to how important he was to your life. So.
Yep. Definitely to my life and to my career. But yeah, it was Dave Weimer. I learned everything.
Gotcha.
And I was lucky. I was lucky to have Brett Maxey too. Really smart. Really, really smart. One of the smartest guys that I met. And he was like me. He had a thirst for knowledge of the game. It's been proven. Another guy that I love.
All right, I got a two-part question for you, I guess. First part is, what was it like playing behind the Dome Patrol? And then the second part is, do you feel like that was a pretty good secondary that you guys had? Do you feel like that group was kind of overshadowed by how good the Dome Patrol was?
Oh yeah. Look, first of all, it was the greatest thing, and from here into eternity, I get to say that of my 11 years, I spent 9 of them with Ricky Jackson, and then of my straight, and then I got 9 with Sam Mills, right? Which I still get upset when they talk about Sam Mills and I'm not interviewed, because I don't know if anyone on there just spent more time with Sam than I did. That being said, to play behind, Pat Swilling and Von Johnson, and then Ronaldo Turnbull came in when they got rid of Von, and he was an MVP. I was very, very lucky. I love playing in the Dome. I love playing on the turf. Because of them, people didn't have a lot of time to be running stupid routes. Right? So it made it a lot easier for me. And there's no question, another reason that I was successful, like anyone, is that I had great, really smart teammates. And yes, we were overshadowed, but I mean, we should have been overshadowed because we had like 4 Pro Bowlers. And in the secondary, people forget that, look, I would have been a Pro Bowler except for the other guys that were going every year were Dion, Darryl Green, Eric Allen, and Aeneas Williams, which 3 of the 4 in the Hall of Fame. That was every single year. And one person got in every year. The year I should have gone, they took Robert Massey because he had the 2 picks on Monday Night Football. One he took to the house. So look, that's just the way it crumbles. I would never trade anything. I mean, there was the Dome Patrol, and if you recall, there was the Sky Patrol pictures in which we're holding like M16s. There's no way that poster could even survive in this environment nowadays. We're all sitting there with guns, with a helicopter, and we look like, we're the Sky Patrol.
So after your years in New Orleans, you head to San Francisco. Was that an easy move for you, knowing that you were headed to a juggernaut in the 49ers, or was it tough because you're leaving New Orleans and all the friends and teammates and the community and everything that you're leaving behind?
It was easy knowing that I was going to a juggernaut. Look, all I wanted to do was win, and all I wanted to do was prove the Saints wrong for not trying harder to keep me.
Gotcha.
Right? And so, look, like I said, I think we averaged 30 points a game with the Niners, and I was used to getting 13. Right? And don't get me wrong, my brother still teases me because he's like, man, he always says, this man loves him some Bobby Hebert. Don't say anything about Bobby Hebert. That's my guy. Right? I go, you're going to tell me that we had Dalton Hilliard, Eric Martin, Bobby Hebert. Those are Pro Bowlers, right? We had a pretty good line, right? Stan Brock, Hilge, Dombrowski. That's a pretty good offense. But the problem was we had Morton Anderson, who was so accurate. It allowed them, and we had such a good defense, it allowed them to play that Schottenheimer-Mora ball.
Yeah, conservative, yeah.
Conservative, let's win it on defense. I'm fine with losing a game blaming it on the defense, right? That was fine, and it was great. It taught me how to play, right? And it taught me, especially if you have someone like Jim Mora, who was not I think he begrudgingly became a fan of mine, but he wasn't at the beginning. But it made me better. Once again, the ability, and Deion didn't show up till late, but I knew that I was getting Tim McDonald, I was getting Merton Hank, I was getting Eric Davis. They'd already signed Ricky, they'd signed Richard Dent, and they'd signed Ken Norton. And I was like, I better get on that team because they're winning the Super Bowl, right? And so, and I'm from Stanford, so it's like a home guy. I remember when we used to come, the Saints would play, and they would announce me, people would cheer because it was Stanford. Gotcha. So in essence, I wasn't, even though I was leaving New Orleans, I was in essence coming home.
You end up winning a Super Bowl in San Francisco, getting an interception in the game as well. I have to assume that's one of the pinnacles of your career?
No, that and winning the College World Series.
Gotcha.
Right, the birth of my kids, getting married.
I'm not trying to compare that.
Well, no, but those, look, to say that you won a Super Bowl, and then even more importantly, to say it's like hitting a home run in the World Series. They can never take that away from you. When they go look at them stats, there's their interception, Toi Cook, and they show it on the little Super Bowl highlight whenever they play it. So, I can say I played with Deion. I can walk into a room full of wide receivers, right, and hold my head high, right, and know that none of those guys can say that they got me for 2 touchdowns and 1 game. Actually, Gary Clark can say it, and Fred, oh my God, played for the Eagles. He got me twice in one
Barnett?
game when I Fred Barnett.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he got me 2 in the first game, and then in that playoff game.
Oh jeez.
For a touchdown. That's one I think that like Eric Allen, we were up, and then Eric Allen returned it. Because we didn't until we won a game, that first playoff game that we won, and of course everyone on the Niners was like, Toi and Ricky are off the schneid. Welcome to the Win Club. Right? We used to take so much shit for.
I bet, especially.
Oh my God, we used to get crushed.
Yeah.
Right? Because I like what kind of defense is this? This is a defense that wins. You guys win in the regular season, but come to playoff, And so we got a chance to win. But it was great. And like I said, I don't necessarily need. I think like Dan Marino is one of the greatest quarterbacks. Jim Kelly, I'd have loved. I could argue being on those Bills teams. I can roll with that. But when you go back and you experience the Hall of Fame, like reunions are great, but there's something about that Super Bowl reunion, right, which is fantastic. And the guys, like when they come back in New Orleans and they honor that Super Bowl team, and they're the only Super Bowl team. We're 1 of 5, but those people up in San Francisco, it's just like it's the greatest thing ever.
When you decide to walk away from football, is that an easy decision for you, knowing what you're headed toward, or is it tough kind of letting go of something that you had been doing for so many years?
Well, it was tough, but it was made easy because no teams picked me up, because back then the salary cap didn't favor veteran players. Now, you can make $1 million and it only costs $250 against the cap, like what a rookie would cost.
Right.
But back then, my $300,000 minimum salary could get you 2 rookies. And a lot of staying around the league, like we call it the Willie Shaw syndrome, right? David Shaw's dad, right? If you played for Willie Shaw, you're getting an extra 3 years in your league, right? He will find you. He don't care what you run. He's gonna fight for you. And you're gonna get 3 years, right? So if I'd have had Willie out versus 11, I'd probably got 14,
Wow.
right? And for me, you know, the reason Colin Kaepernick can't find a spot in the league is because Jim Harbaugh is at Michigan, right? And none of the coaches that coached him are head coaches, right? For me, I lucked out because I was able to go to the Niners, play, and then the last couple of years go play for Dom Capers and Vic Fangio because they think on every time I see Jerry Glanville and June Jones, I always thank them. And Jerry goes, "Oh, June, Toy owes us money because he says he got an extra 2 years in the league because of us, because they were in Atlanta still running and shoot, so you had to have dime."
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So they employed a lot of people. So thank you. So, but a lot of it was luck because I had Vic Fangio and Dom Capers, and Vic was unhappy. I mean, Dom was unhappy with his nickel and said, "Toy can do this." And you need that kind of luck to get that kind of, and once again, smart people, we won. We almost went to the Super Bowl, which had we won that game against Green Bay, you would have had me, Sam Mills, and Brett Maxey coming back to play the New England Patriots in New Orleans. Oh my God, I wanted to do.
I know since you retired, you've been involved in a number of different committees regarding head injuries in football. Is that something that you have personal concern with where you're going to be down the road, or is that just something that you're kind of standing up for the guys that have been affected by it?
Yeah, I think we all have concerns. We don't know, and then you see stuff like what happened with Dwight Clark, who I have a picture from when Super Bowl was in San Francisco 2 years ago with Dwight, who was a good-looking guy, right, looking good, and then a year later he's in a wheelchair, and then after that he's almost dead, and you just don't know. You don't know. I do know this. When you watch the game and you see the hits that they're taking out, and you just kind of go back and look at the hits that we participated in, it's just like, oh my God, how can something not be wrong? And the worst part is the league, and I was talking to Eric Dickerson and Roger Goodell, who makes $40 million a year, doesn't want to take care of the players, right? And then I love this creative coalition that they gave that $50 million to quick, right? And I keep saying they're arguing about the wrong thing. It's not the whole idea about taking a knee, which was instituted by the Army. That's a way that you can show signs of respect, because when they bring a flag back, you take a knee. That's how that all kind of started, but no one ever really explained it. I just think that, look, the only way people are getting paid are people that are literally diagnosed with ALS, right, which is a death sentence, right, or the other things. But we are all off in some form or fashion, right? And it's very simple. They have the money to take care. Look, if you played for 10 years in the league, right, that should just be automatic, especially before these new rules.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And this should be 10, 8, 7, 6, 5. I just think it's ludicrous that we should be compensated. And then you go back and you just think about all the old timers that they can take care of. I mean, the Hall of Famer can't even get insurance. What? How is that possible? Right? But teams are worth, $5, $4, $3 billion, $2 billion, right? Roger Goodell's making $40 million, right? But all these old-time players that really need help, and I'm telling you, a lot of people suffer. They don't even know, whether it was having a drinking problem or a drug problem or all these kind of mood swings. Why do you think that is?
Right.
And so, look, they could get ahead of the curve. This could be a win-win, right? Just pay the players and then move on. But look, there's a reason why they're billionaires.
It's unfortunate.
But I am concerned. I mean, I'm 54. You see people dying left and right, right? And you just hope that, that I'm productive, that I can make it to my pension, which is 65. I got another 11 years.
So considering your concerns in your own personal health and for the well-being of some of the guys you played with, any regrets? Would you do it again?
Yep. No question. Because, would you play baseball? Maybe. But I know this. I'm a football guy. I love football, right? I am so happy.
That's great.
See, I get all emotional because I think, man, if it wasn't for football, I wouldn't have met Ricky Jackson. I wouldn't have met Dalton Hilliard. I wouldn't have met Bobby Hebert. I wouldn't have met Jim Moore. I wouldn't have met Vic Fangio. I just would have met all these great people. I wouldn't know about New Orleans like I do. I didn't. Oh, and my college roommate, my first college roommate, Gary Zoller, is from New Orleans. I didn't even know where New Orleans was in conjunction to Baton Rouge, right?
Gotcha.
And so when I came to New Orleans, the Zollers, they lived right off of St. Charles, right around the corner from Archie Manning.
Oh, wow.
So Gary Zoller, Stanford University, from New Orleans was and then I get drafted. Gary was so happy, and I was so pissed. Because that day, because back then, it was like they had a draft, and it had to be like on a Tuesday because I was playing a baseball game. Could have been a Friday. I don't even remember. All I know is I had a grand slam that day, but I hadn't got called. And back then, it's not like they had cell phones so they could call you. So my college roommate, John Valenti, the son of the great Jack Valenti, the president of the Motion Picture Association, came to Denny's to find me and my dad to tell me that the Saints had called my room, which I don't even know what that number was, to say they had drafted me. And all I said was, who cares? 8th round? What is that? I was so pissed. But looking back on it, once again, Lenny, please put in Lenny Alsfeld, his name.
For sure.
If I hadn't come to New Orleans, I wouldn't have met Emerald. I wouldn't have met, for sure, Lenny Alsfeld and Cindy Alsfeld, the Clarkson. Really Lenny. I don't want to offend any of all the other people I met, but it's just, I love saying that I played for the Saints. I just think it's one of the coolest things. I played for the Stanford, for the Saints, for Super Bowl Niners with Jerry Rice and Dion and that whole Super Bowl team, which was a bunch of all-stars. I got to play in Carolina, and I got to fly to Japan and hang out with Paul Tagliabue, and I met Roger Goodell, and I met owners, and I've had conversations with owners. I just talked to Jed York for 40 minutes at the reunion. I go, owners, who gets to talk to billionaires? Or Jim Finks. I learned so much from Jim Finks and Bill Kuharic. I will always treasure, because you can't get that anywhere.
One more for you, Toi. What are you most proud of that you've accomplished since leaving the NFL?
I just think that all of the entrepreneurial, from starting the Gersh Agency Sports to starting Broadband Sports, and Kevin Dimhoff, who's the COO of Rams, was working there. And the company, I started a company called the Cardinal Media Group, which will be making an announcement, I don't know, in about 30 to 60 days. But I think that's going to be a pretty big deal. So I haven't hit my pinnacle yet, in my estimation. I think that the success that I had, from 23 to 34, was great. But I think my true calling is about to come very shortly.
There you have it, folks. Toi Cook. Can't thank him enough for his time. He's always a pleasure to talk to. He's one of my personal favorites. I feel like I say that on a number of different episodes, but Toi Cook has definitely got a special place with me. So thank you to everyone that stuck it out. Who dat, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.